Welcome back to 5 Miles Easy with me, Rose Harvey.
And me, Steph McCall. She's an Olympian.
And she's an elite ultra runner, so you might think we have this running thing pretty figured out.
We absolutely don't, but we're on a mission to become better runners.
And we're bringing you along for the journey.
So let's lace up for 5 Miles Easy.
Steph, we have a fantastic guest on today who many of our listeners may be used to waking up to on the Chris Evans breakfast show. But today, Vassos Alexander is here with us on the 5 Miles Easy sofa to talk all about his running journey, which is nothing short of incredible.
It really is. Vassos has run nearly 100 marathons and ultramarathons, including the 153-mile Spartathlon.
That is nuts.
And this year, he's just done the London Marathon wearing a 25-kilogram weighted vest.
I cannot imagine. Oh my gosh, just in that heat as well, that must have been hell. I feel like he must be like a foot shorter.
That's so true. It must be so bad for your back.
You would just need to go and hang off a climbing frame for days.
Yeah, I know. I really cannot imagine it. 25 kilos is so heavy.
I can't pick up a 25 kilogram dumbbell, I don't think.
No.
Can I? I don't know. I might go and try it, but I don't fancy running with it, that's for sure.
Oh, it can't be good for you. But I'm so interested to hear more about how he trained for that and why did he want to do that?
And is he now hanging off a climbing frame?
And before we get into the show, can we just give an update to listeners? Because Charlie was on the podcast a couple weeks ago for the London debrief. And
Husband Charlie,
to be clear. And he was obviously telling us how you coached him for Copenhagen Marathon.
He smashed it. So proud of him.
I was absolutely astonished. I was looking at the paces and I thought, okay, halfway looks good, but, then it's going to get harder. He just got faster.
And so it was really funny afterwards. He was talking about it and he was like, yeah, I did as I was told and it worked wonders. And I was like, why can this not apply to the rest of our relationship? He literally did as I told him to the letter, and it worked.
So maybe you need to sort of feed in that you're his coach for everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
His life coach.
I've spent the last 8 years trying to do that. So until now, it hasn't worked. All I needed was a marathon.
Wow.
And then he listens to me. But he did do very, very well.
Did he enjoy it?
2:37. He loved it. He really enjoyed it. And I'm sure there's much more in the tank. Amazingly, he was actually still conversational at the end. Like I saw him with 1K to go and I was like, come on, you got 1K to go. And he was like, yeah, I'm nearly there. A full
he
sentence.
Was chilling. Wow, that's
but
very impressive.
His legs were pretty sore afterwards. It was his legs that were kind of the limiting factor. But an incredible debut. He now has the household marathon debut record.
Wow.
So I've lost that.
Okay, so he's coming after
He is
the household
coming after
record.
me. Yes, I'm clinging on to it for as long as possible. But he did very, very well.
Wow, we're very proud of you, Charlie.
We are. But anyway, shall we get back to Vassos and his insane London Marathon?
Let's do it. Vassos, thank you so much for joining us for 5 Miles Easy. We are so excited to talk about your running journey and in particular your recent feat at the London Marathon, which
was horrific. What was horrific?
Where you held a 25-kilogram weighted vest, but we will get into that in a bit. The first question we ask all our guests is, what is your why when it comes to running?
Good question. So you know how you'll have asked that question a lot and you'll have got lots of different answers. I run from my mental health. I run for physical fitness. I run for vanity so that I can eat cake. I run for, there's loads and loads of different reasons why running is great. Good for the soul. And it seems like every single box gets ticked for me. I was never fit. I never did exercise really until my 30s. And I started in a gym. I didn't like it. Started on a treadmill. Didn't like it. Started running outside and immediately it was like, okay, this is it. This is great. And I never planned for, to be sort of thought of as the guy who runs. But and you know how like people who, like born again Christians, they're evangelical because they've sort of, they've discovered this thing.
Yes.
I'm a bit like that with running.
So it's become who you are.
Well, I just know that a life with running in it is better than a life without running in it.
100%.
Running specifically, you know.
So how did you actually get into it if you weren't sporty? How did you actually go on that first run and get hooked on it?
I found a little. I was just looked down at my jeans and I saw a little sort of flop of fat. It's only little, but I thought, well, that's new. And I thought, well, okay. So either I get fat, or I stop eating what I want, or I start exercising. And I thought, well, let's try the exercise thing. And again, it wasn't immediate. I went and I booked an appointment with a personal trainer at I was working at TV Centre at the BBC, and a guy called Andrew, and he was like, do a bit on the running machine, do some weights, and I was like, oh, this is all a bit. I actually love weights now, and I actually don't even mind a running machine. But
really?
back then,
I hate the treadmill.
I know, but there's something quite honest about it, isn't there? There's something quite, you know. I used to do this thing
The
called
treadmill minute, though, just goes so slowly.
I did this thing called the Power Hour, where you do 4 minutes at marathon pace and then a minute sprinting 12 times.
Oh my gosh, that sounds hell.
No, it's hell. It's hell. And I would look back through my notes, but I wanted to break a 3-hour marathon, and that sort of stuff you have to do if you're not talented like me. Oh my! And I must have done it about 10, 12 times. Oh, awful. But anyway, so I started exercising, then I started running, and then I was so sort of, look at this thing I've discovered, running. And then I did a race, which was the Great North Run. And then I thought, that was great and awful, but great, you know.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, I wonder what would it be like doing a marathon, and then further and further, and then, yeah.
So how did you get into the ultras then? Because you've done some crazy races.
I have done some crazy races, but they're not really crazy. They're awesome.
A little bit crazy.
Yeah. You've done Spartathlon, which
Okay, that's crazy.
That sounds insane. So yeah, maybe to you they're not crazy because it's become your norm, but I think to a lot
I
of
know
people...
they're crazy, but people who just don't run at all would think that a 5k park run is crazy. Why would you get up on a Saturday morning and flog yourself around 3 and a bit miles when you could just have brunch and watch, you know, Netflix? It's the easier option.
You can do that after going for a run, and it's the best way to start the day, isn't it? It's just amazing.
And when you go for 100 and, well, that in that case 155 or whatever it is mile run, right? And they make it really hard, Spartathlon, as well, because they front load it. So you have to do the first marathon out of Athens in, I think, 3 hours 40 or 3:45 or something, or you're out. And so obviously you don't want to leave it to 3:45, so you do it in like 3:20. But then you've done a 3:20 marathon and you've got 135 miles to go, and it's hilly out of Athens. Anyway, no, it is mad. But, like, what is it that Carl Meltzer, Speed Goat Carl, says? He goes, 100 miles is not that far. It's not really. And you strip yourself down, you know, the layers come away, and you emerge a better person, you know, and you just see what's at the core of you. And that's, I think, why we all go running, really, is because we have the option to not run. I mean, usually when you run, you know, you're great at running, but you don't always think, oh, hooray, I'm going running now, do you? No, I don't. Definitely I don't. But we're better afterwards.
Yeah, so true. We always say that motivation, a lot of people ask us, you know, how do you stay motivated? And the answer is you don't, because motivation isn't always there for you. But it's the commitment, and you know you'll always feel better for it.
Yeah.
And you'll feel better for not just the running, but for having committed to it and kind of overcome that lack of motivation and still got out there.
And having done that for years.
Yes.
All of those runs that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
They're in your back pocket, you know. And how can you not be a better, stronger person for that?
Has that, I know you said you weren't sporty, but has that element of always wanting to challenge yourself and overcome, you know, the desire not to do it and then still going into, has that always been in you? Where does that come from, and the kind of mindset to go into those ultra crazy races?
Yeah, I wonder. So it was recently the anniversary of Roger Bannister's.
Yeah.
They do a thing every year, don't they, at Diffley Road. I met Roger in 2000, I want to say 4, I think on the 50th anniversary. We had a cup of coffee together, and he always said that his sub 4 minute mile was not his greatest achievement. He always said it was his like medical stuff. I mean, I'm not sure he's right, but never mind. But he said to me, he said, if you can get outside of your comfort zone every day, you know, then your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you talked about my horrific London Marathon, and everyone kept asking me, why are you doing it with a 25 kilogram weighted vest? And I can't honestly remember why, but on the start line, I'm very lucky. I get to start in the VIP tent at the start, and I see the same sort of faces, and everyone's going, what are you doing this time? And I knew every London Marathon over the past 10, 15 years that I've been running it, I've known within 10 minutes or so how fast I'm going to finish. So there's There's no question mark about finishing. This time I was terrified. And there's something about that. You know, I was so far outside my comfort zone. And it was so hard. My back still hurts so much. This sofa is not good for it. But, you know, I got outside my comfort zone. And I love that. I love that, just asking questions of yourself and then answering them. And I think that's why I get into ultras. Because I knew, okay, I've got 26 miles. Have I got 62? Have I got, 100?
Yeah.
Have I got,
So
Spartathlon?
you learn so much about yourself, I think. And for me, like, that aspect has given me so much confidence in other aspects of my life.
Exactly.
Knowing that I've gone into things thinking, for me, running marathons at the time I do wouldn't have even entered my remit of imagination a few years ago. But pushing those boundaries gives me so much confidence for other things that I think I can't do. And it's like, well, I've done one thing, so I can do that other thing.
I was on a stage a couple of months ago at a book festival, and someone said when you're doing these 100-mile, 150-mile races and you go to dark places, how do you get through? And I thought that's the wrong question, because I don't go to dark places. When you strip away all the layers, underneath all of the, we've all got them, underneath childhood traumas, or, BMW drivers cutting you up this morning, or the taxi driver nearly knocking me off my bike just now, underneath all of that life is just, I think we're all like little shards of the same universal force, and that force is love, right? So when you do hard stuff, really hard stuff, getting rid of all the layers, and you find that love, and you can take that into the rest of your life.
I love that.
That's an interesting perspective as well. And it reminds me of, there's been a recent trend on social media of like your 80 or 90-year-old self revisiting you at this age, and almost like, what would that person say to younger you? And it kind of puts things into perspective. When you're a bit stressed, you're finding something hard, you think, actually, no, like I'd want, like my older person would be like, just don't worry, like you're fine. Like it's just be grateful for what you're doing right now. And actually it can really change your mindset, I think, especially in like those tough races where I just think, this is great.
Yeah, oh no, it is great. It's awful and it's great.
Yeah. It doesn't take away the pain sometimes.
No, 100% it doesn't. Like London, I couldn't look at Canary Wharf and the Isle of Dogs. We can see it from our studio window at Virgin Radio. And it's just there over the river, really. But I couldn't look out the window for 2 days after London because of the sort of PTSD from it. It hurt that much. And I'm the pain guy, I can take this stuff. It was really hurty, but I don't regret doing it at all. Even then I didn't regret doing it. And the thought to take it off, because obviously I could, it's never even occurred to me. My son says something similar. He's 19 today. Happy birthday, Matthew.
Happy birthday.
He says, will I care about this in a year when something annoys him? And the answer is almost always no.
Not worth worrying about that.
It's not worth worrying about.
So can we just get a bit more into London Marathon? Why the 25 kilogram weight?
I don't know.
But where did it come from?
Well, here's the thing. So I'm currently chair of Barnes Runners, just around the corner here. And we thought it would be a good thing, and we were right, to start some Couch to 5K programs going. And the second, I think, one, I thought, well, it's lovely. It's lovely getting people to go from the couch to 5K, and it's really, inclusive and gets people into running, and it's really important, I think. But if you're me, doing, let's say, 3 minutes slow running and then 90 seconds walking 5 times doesn't really constitute a workout. So I thought, well, I'll buy a weighted vest, and then maybe it will constitute a workout. And I bought one. It was the first one I saw on Amazon.
What does it look like?
It looks like, honestly, it's sort of got terrorism vibes. Do you know what I mean? It just sits up here, and it's got these like black weights in it, like 9 on the front, 4 and 5, and then 9 on the back. So it's not, if you did it with a rucksack, the weight sits on your hip and it's much more comfortable, but this just crushes you from below. And it never occurred to me that I would run a marathon in it. I actually, when I put it on, I thought, because you can't, 25 kilograms, people might think, you can't really lift it. And even just getting it really on heavy. For a start it's really heavy. It's like heavier than your heaviest ever suitcase. Yes. And you're having to put it on.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then I did that a bit, and then I thought, well, okay, I'm going to run with this. It became a bit of a joke at home. I'd go home, and then Caroline, my wife, with the kids, I'd say, guess who was working harder than Dad for the last 40 minutes? And they go, what? Nobody was working harder than Dad for the last 40 minutes is the answer, And then we go, oh, were you working with it? And so it became a bit of a joke. And then I'm also a member of Whitstable Road Runners, and we sort of, as a club, descended on the Canterbury 10-miler at the end of January. And I thought, I'm going to do it with a weighted vest. And I think it was halfway through that the little worm got into my head. If I can do this, because I had no idea, because it would sort of break my heart to set the Garmin on a weighted vest run. I don't want to see 9, 10, 11-minute miles. I just don't. No, thank you. So I just did it all on a stopwatch. But then obviously the Canterbury 10 miler is timed. So I thought if I can do it round about 10 minutes a mile, so 1:40, then I wonder whether I could get round London, because they always say do it in under 5 hours, and that was sort of my I thought maybe, and I did it in 1:37, 1:36 or something, the 10 miler, and then that was it. The worm was in my head. I did the calculation. A 1:36 or 7 10 miler was something like 5:07 as a marathon, but I thought, yeah, but that probably doesn't take into account the fact that my legs have got some miles in them, so maybe I'd be able to do it in under 5 hours. And then I just thought, oh, okay, I'll see if I can. So then I did a 2-hour run in it. But you do a long run a week. The long runs in that are so awful that I couldn't. It was a long run every 2 or 3 weeks.
How did you train it? Because there must have been such a balance between not messing up your back and legs and everything by carrying around 25 kilos, but you also need to practice it.
It's always fine. I mean, it's awful, but it's fine for sort of like half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour while my daughter's at. And I just used to run with it. Then I did a 2-hour run after the 1:37 or whatever it was. And then I did I think I then went straight to, and I was going to go 2:30 to 2:40, that sort of area. And I ended up doing 2:44, and only on time, because I know I'm not interested in the distance. And I had in my head, it's going to take me 5 hours. So then I thought I'll do a 3.5, and I'll do a 4:10, and then I'll do the marathon.
Looks?
No one knows. No one knows
you
what
can't
it is.
Tell.
No one.
Well, so many people run with hydration.
It looks like a hydration.
So.
It looks like a bulky hydration.
But does it make you run weirdly? Because I can imagine if that was on me, I'd just I wouldn't look normal.
No, and it just compresses your spine more and more.
Yeah.
So the longer runs, I'd have to stop every sort of half hour and just sort of on a lamppost or a fence, just go and the back's going click, 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 click.
Oh,
you go, I can't keep running. And then you'll know this, right? If you say, I'm going to run for 3.5 hours, or 3:30 to 3:40, and you get home at 3:28, you'll run a minute down the road and come back. Of course, right? Of course. I think everyone, watching, listening to this will agree with that.
Yeah.
I got home at my 3.5 hour run at 3:28, and I was not even close to thinking I'm running an extra minute down the road.
Oh, wow.
And then that run was so awful that I couldn't bear to do the next long run. So that was 5 weeks before London, and that was my longest run. And I thought I'll just have to firm it.
Gosh, so you did 3 hours 28 as your longest run.
Yeah. No idea how far that was. It was around here near the river.
And then what did you run London in? What was your time for London?
It was much, much quicker than I thought. It was 4:14.
Wow. That's incredible. I actually think
it was.
That is insane. And did you know you were? So when you said you
no, and then I
London,
set the Garmin, and it was like 6 minutes a kilometre, just under, right? And then
you had that as you were going, so you knew from when you
set
off,
then I knew,
then
I knew, but I assumed I'd slow down, and then I slowed down so much, so I felt like I was going 7, 8, 9 minutes a kilometre, and the watch kept going 6 minutes a kilometre, 5:50 a kilometre, 5:45 a kilometre. And I was like, what's going on? Because I feel like this is the slowest I've ever run. I feel like there are snails that are going quicker than me, and because I started sort of at the front, I was always being overtaken by the sub 3s and then the 3:15s, and I was around the sort of 3:40 runners, but I was being overtaken still. I was thinking I was going so slowly, but then I looked at my splits afterwards, and I just didn't slow down.
Wow.
But it felt I was from mile 11. My friend Marlena, she's lovely, she said I'll be giving out Lucozades at mile 18 like she was last year, and I thought this year, with all due respect, Marlena, I didn't say this to her, and I hope she never hears this, but I thought I'm going to be on the other side of the road. I just don't want to have to, hi, how's it going? Let me just get it done, especially
in
mile 18. That's like the worst time,
You're
right?
in the pain cave.
Right, so I just thought I'll just be on the other side of the road. I won't take a Lucozade there. I don't really do gels. Oh, by the way, I don't really do gels. Usually like 1 caffeinated gel, once 2, 6.
Well, there we go.
That's why you ran so fast. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and then I from all I could think about was Marlena at mile 18 from mile 11, and then I saw her and I went, Marlena, I need a hug. And she was
hug
lovely.
and some Lucozade.
Did you do any strength training at all in the lead up, or was it just the runs in the weighted vest?
Just the runs in the weighted vest, but I go to the gym 3 times a week and do strength training too.
Yeah.
So when you saw your splits were just even, that must have given you so much motivation and kind of mental strength to keep going.
Not really. It was so
It was so bad.
It was so bad. It was so bad. Yeah, like everyone was going, "Oh, well done! Look at your time," and I was like, I can't think of it as oh, well done me. It was. I sort of can looking back on it.
That's incredible.
Do you think that your experience, because you've done fancy dress a few times in previous London marathons, do you think that helped at all?
No.
Oh.
No, fancy dress is great. I've run it 3 times, maybe 4. I think maybe 4. as a giant minion. You can't see anything because the costume is like, and it has its challenges. Like it's sort of heavy, nothing like 25 kilograms, especially in the rain. Very hot, and you can't get in there, so you can't wipe the sweat out of your eyes. So there's a sort of, you're looking through a waterfall of sweat and through this little hole, which is about 1.5 feet in front of you. So you can only see what's through that hole. And some people, they don't know they're doing it, but they cut you up, and then you sort of nearly fall over quite a lot. But you do see the kids at the side of the road, and that is such a joy. I mean, there is not a kid for the last 4 London marathons on the side of the road that wasn't high-fived by a minion
that's incredible.
between Greenwich and the Mall. And that was just a joy. Dad, Mum, Dad, minion. And so you're really in the spirit of the London Marathon.
Fastest minion.
Yeah, I know I am, actually. I am, by more than an hour, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so
I
good.
love that that's a record.
But I know Hugh Brasher, who obviously runs London Marathon events and puts it on, and he actually said to me, I feel bad about this, and in retrospect I shouldn't have. He said, it's going to be a hot day. You don't know the strain that you're putting on your heart, A, in the heat, and B, in that vest. And I feel really, and I did say to him on Monday when I saw him after the marathon, I'm sorry to, you've got enough on your plate without worrying that somebody who's a bit in the public eye might end up in hospital because of some idiocy that he decided to do. So in retrospect, I could have done it at a lower key marathon where, Hugh hasn't invited me to the, like he does every time. And I do feel bad. So it's not, I don't recommend it, but I sort of don't regret it.
It doesn't sound like the most pleasant I don't think you're selling it, really.
No, actually, I don't recommend it at all. No. Especially not with all the weight on you. And then I did High Rocks last Sunday, and I could have done with another week to recover, to be honest.
Yeah, how was your back?
Within 100 yards, I was like, oh, this is gonna hurt.
Do you feel like you've recovered? Like,
how
long
I
does it
haven't
take to
recovered.
recover from something like that?
I haven't done that much more damage than I did after the 3.5 hour run, and that took me about 3.5 weeks to fully recover from. Look, I knew that at best case scenario, I would do some medium term, low grade damage to my back and spine, and I've done it, but I never want to see the weighted vest again. In fact,
Don't blame
me. I finished that. If I didn't know Hugh, I would have taken it off at the finish line and just left it on the road. But but out of respect for Hugh and London Marathon and everyone, I found the nearest bin.
Okay.
This big industrial bin, and I threw it away.
But did you take it off immediately after
Immediately,
you crossed the line?
yeah.
That
And
must have been so much relief.
Chris Dennis, who works for the BBC and I've known for years and does the sort of finishing line interviews on the big screen and on the world feed. I always speak to him, and in fact, 1 year can go by and I haven't seen him since, from the last year's London Marathon finishing line. And he goes, "Oh, hi Vassos, do you want to do a word?" And then he saw me and went, "Actually, you don't need a word, do you? You just need to go." And so I was really in a
Have
state.
you had a massage?
No, I think it might hurt too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
You find some way to re-extend your spine.
I've done a bit
Hang
of
off some
yoga.
monkey
Like a
bars.
stretching
Yeah.
device.
I try to do yoga once a week.
Oh, but aside for the waiting vest, how was the whole experience of
I
London
love
Marathon?
London. It's the
The
greatest
crowds were
race. It's the
incredible.
greatest race.
I don't know about you, but I just thought the crowds were on the next level to anything I've seen before. Insane.
I mean, I've been so lucky to have run it, and the crowds they have been the best in the world. They were the best in the world in 2015, and now we're 10 years later, and they are twice as good as they were in 2015. People say New York, absolute nonsense. New York, they're great, right? In London, they are different level. And I'm lucky enough to do
as well.
marathons all over the world. No one, and this is the thing, right, about London. Yes, the people running it. Yes, the people running at the pointy end. Yes, the people running it in fancy dress. Yes, the people trying for PBs or raising loads of money for good causes. All brilliant, right? So inside the ropes, there's sort of fitness and there's charity and there's just great stuff. But outside the ropes, outside the barriers, nobody forces people to come and support. And if they do, right, let's say you've got to support your mum running it, right? You go, you wait for your mum, you say, "Yeah, mum, well done." And then but nobody does that. What they do is they read everybody's name out of their vest and they scream like banshees for everybody. And that's just human beings at their absolute greatest. For no other reason than just it's the lovely thing to do.
It's just a fantastic day out. If you're not running it, actually just going to support is so much fun. And it was noticeably busier this year. I could, definitely.
I feel like it gives, I said exactly the same thing afterwards. I was like, it gives you so much faith in humanity. And I think especially in a place like London, we've just come out of winter where everyone kind of goes into hibernation. Yeah. And you don't look at anyone or speak to anyone. And then suddenly the city comes alive of so much enthusiasm and warmth. It is just it's incredible to see. It's so.
I know
It's really
sort of-
heartwarming, isn't it?
Oh, it's like what I imagine living in Yorkshire's like, where everyone likes each other.
Everyone smiles.
Yeah. No, it is. It's lovely. It's my favourite thing. My favourite place in the world is on the start line of any race, really, because of that nervous excitement. I think you can't. That's such a heady mix, right?
Yeah.
But London Marathon especially, and then and my favourite race in the world is the London Marathon, because it's the people who make it, and it's not the people. Yes, the volunteers. Yes, the runners, but everybody else actually.
The crowd
Yeah.
is incredible. Okay, so what was harder between doing that race in the 25k weighted vest or the Spartathlon?
No, obviously Spartathlon. I mean, I was doing pretty well for 120 miles, but then I stopped being able to move, and I've got 35 miles left. And Spartathlon was so hard, the last bit, that I have sort of blanked it out. I have like the odd flash memory, but the last 35 miles, I don't know how I got there. And then I got to Sparta, and that's a thing as well, reaching Sparta, because you are honouring Greek history by taking part in this race. Phidippides, who gave birth to the marathon by running from Marathon to Athens to announce the victory, earlier that week pretty much, he had to run to Sparta to ask for help in that battle, and then back. And so and then according to legend, he did it in a day and a bit, so that's what you're trying to do.
Hence the cut-offs. Is that why they have the cut-off time?
They have the cut-offs because they're just nasty. That's why they have the cut-offs. And after 100 miles, the cut-offs get much easier, but you've got to get to the top of the mountain at 100 miles, and it's 30-degree heat in the day, and it was -1 or something on top of the mountain and windy. It's like 4,000 feet up the mountain. Anyway, you get to Sparta, and in the last 152 or 3 miles, you've had maybe 4 timing mats. Okay. And then you get to Sparta, you see the sign that says, "Welcome to Sparta," or "Kalos oristes Sparti" in Greek, and then there's a timing mat, and you think, well, I thought the finish was different to this, because I thought you had to kiss a statue and there were lots of people around, but I've reached Sparta, right? And there's a timing mat, so I must have finished. And then the volunteer said to me, "Well done, only 2.5k to go," which is like 1.5 miles. Yeah. And I thought, well, that was a shame, because my brain had thought I'd finished. Yeah. And I'm not going to make that 1.5. So I got to Sparta and I didn't finish the race, but I'm taking that. 100%. And I really genuinely 100% thought, this is good enough for me. I'm not doing the other 1.5 because I can't. But then the sort of Sparta thing kicked in, because the whole town celebrates that. Because you only get a runner every sort of 10-15 minutes or half an hour if you're lucky, because about 300 start and about 150 finish. And the local kids take your hand and walk you through, or run if you're able to run, which I wasn't, walk you through the city. And everybody's out. Amazing. I mean, it's London, but it's not 1 million people of the 7 million people in London. Yeah. It's everybody in Sparta's out applauding you. And this kid looked up at me and said, "Why are you going so slowly?" And I went, "Look, I've just come from Athens, and I promise you it's not close." And he thinks about this, and he's about 8, and he goes, "Yeah, but still." This is in Greek. I speak Greek. Yeah. And then I got to the end, and then there's 3 steps up to the statue to touch, or more charmingly, you kiss the feet of the statue of the warrior king to finish. And I thought, well, that's that. I got to very near the end because I can't do the 3 steps. And then there's this video. Debs Martin Kasani took the video of me getting up these steps. You think that human being can't get up those steps. It doesn't still. Anyway, I don't know how I did it, but yeah. So Sparta, much harder, but London was absolutely brutal. Really, really I had no idea how much it would hurt. I'm still in a bit of shock about it.
So I can imagine. Both huge achievements. How do you prepare for such a long, gruelling race with the Spartathlon?
Look, I had a 100-mile time that got me in. And then that's why I died at 120 miles, because I hadn't. But how can you run more than 100 miles in training? You know?
Yeah, it would take too much out of you.
In order to run 100k, which is 62 miles, I'd run a marathon, and in order to run 100 miles, I'd run 100k. So I just, you have to trust your.
Do you think so much of it must all be mental?
You will know. They say 90% of an ultra is in the mind, and the other 10% is mental.
So where did your mind go when you maybe got to 100 miles and you'd never run farther than that?
Oh, that was cool. That was cool. Then that's the base of the mountain, or the top of the mountain is 100 miles. So then you get down, and then you've got another sort of incline. I can't remember where. Honestly, my mind has got. I don't remember 130 miles 120 miles to 155, apart from the last mile with the kids. I genuinely don't remember
Bit
it.
of trauma.
I don't know. I think I talked to Barack Obama. I said,
That's
I'm
cool.
really surprised that you are running this race. That's really great. And it was a lamppost. I think that happened.
So were you were really hallucinating?
It took it wasn't even that long. It was like
What's
Well,
Obama
how
doing
long
here?
29, 30 hours. It wasn't the lack of sleep. It was just, I have got one arrow in my quiver. I've got one thing that I can rely on, which is I just won't stop. In my first marathon in Barcelona, I hadn't quite done enough training because I had injuries and stuff. You know what it's like when you first start running that sort of distances, you get niggles and you think, oh, I've got to stop. And I'd run maybe 16, 17 miles in training, and at about 20, I was thinking I was running through treacle, and we passed the open doorway of our hotel, and there were no
That's cool.
barriers or anything, and I thought, oh, I've run 20 miles, I could just stop.
Yeah.
And then I just chose not to stop. And then from then on, I just remember that. If you give up off the table, the only thing left on the menu is carry on.
Keep going.
Yeah. So that's all I've got.
In that Spartathlon, did you ever actually think, when you said that you didn't think you could go on for the last 2 miles?
The only time I thought I'm going to stop, 2 times, was a mile and a half from the finish, because in my brain had processed Welcome to Sparta.
Yeah.
And decided, okay, well, you've done it.
It
and
is
then,
a long way when you don't think you're meant to do it.
And then the 3 steps. Genuinely, those
Yeah.
2 times I thought, oh, that's a shame. I've not quite finished it. But other than that, I just carried on, yeah.
I mean, you got through that, so surely now you're like, you can do anything.
Well, it excites me to try. So last year I'm not a swimmer. I had a solo channel swim booked. In fact, let's give my book about to come out a plug.
Yes.
It's called Swimmingly.
Let's talk about that.
It's called Swimmingly, Adventures in Water, and it's about a failed attempt to swim the channel, because I never actually got to start swimming. Combination of a bad shoulder and the weather, just nobody was swimming in that tide. But that really excited me because it's outside my comfort zone. The marathon excited me because, I don't know if I can do 26 miles in that vest. I'm in Berlin this year. I think I might have a little go at a sub 3 again.
Brilliant.
Because I don't know if I can do that, On the minus side, 8 years or whatever it is since my last one, 7 years. But on the plus side, all the shoe technology, which didn't exist back then. So
And a lot more experience.
and a lot more experience. But I haven't really. I mean, a bit of running London in a Minion costume and in a weighted vest is to sort of take the pressure off the time. But I think, why don't I put the pressure back on the time?
So tell us a bit about the channel attempt.
So
where did that come about, and will you give it another go?
Well, I love swimming. I just fell in love with open water swimming in lockdown, really. And then I had lunch with my editor, and I thought it was on pretty safe ground to talk about my love of swimming, because I'm the running books guy, right? And then that's the little glint in her eye. And I've always loved swimming. I was brought up in Greece and just swimming in the sea. That's all there was to do. We lived in the middle of nowhere with my grandparents. Literally, my brother and I were just in the sea
And
every day.
Beautiful.
And there's something about that connection to nature, And I just got more and more into swimming. And then Charlotte and I sort of devised, well, why don't you see if you can do a solo channel? And I loved the idea of a challenge. And I learned to swim on my swim stroke. I saw a bloke in Canary Wharf called Ray who sorted out my swim stroke in his tank. And I did loads of races. I swam across San Francisco Bay with all the sharks from Alcatraz. I did some really epic stuff. The channel swim didn't actually happen, but I'm so pleased about that, because otherwise it's just the bloke that sets himself silly challenges did another silly challenge. Whereas this is now just a celebration of the wonderful people and the wonderful community, because at the heart of swimming and running actually is a real community and a real
Absolutely.
Let's help each other if we possibly can. Swimming plus, because there's the sort of danger of death from the cold or the water and stuff, and so everyone's got each other's back. And there are some totally inspirational swimmers. Diana Nyad, you may have seen the film about her, she was one of the great swimmers, and then she gave it all up. She tried to swim from Cuba to Florida, 110 miles, nearly died, gave it up, became a sportscaster, and then on her 60th birthday thought, should I just try that again? And then failed, and then failed, and then failed, and then succeeded, age 64. And there's this brilliant Netflix film about her. Anyway, she and I got on great when I interviewed her for the book. Lynn Cox, this woman called Lynn Cox in the 80s, swam from the USA to the USSR across the Bering Strait from Alaska to Russia. And because of that, within 2 weeks, Gorbachev and Reagan were signing the first nuclear proliferation treaty, saying if a woman can swim between our nations, we can do this. So basically, a woman saved the world. So swimming stories are just great, and swimmers are just great, and I just loved getting again outside my comfort zone. I'm going to try again next year.
Wow.
Absolutely. I just needed a year off. The trouble with swimming is it needs a lot of... If you want to do a 3-hour swim, where are we going to do a 3-hour run? You just get them out the front door and 3 hours later you've done your run. Whereas swimming, you've got
a bit more faff.
Plan it.
Yeah. And you've written multiple books about not just swimming, endurance sport, loads of running books. What's inspired you to do that? Why do you enjoy writing about it?
What I love is... Well, I love telling a story, and I love the fact that I've discovered running. I feel so lucky. Well, the running found me rather than me finding running, and I just feel like if I can write some stories, because I was never it's not as if I once asked Jess Ennis-Hill the day after she won an Olympic gold medal in London. I said, what's it like being so flipping fit? I mean, the heptathlon gold medalist in the conversation of fittest woman in the world, right? She goes, I don't know, because I've always been fit. Well, I haven't always been fit, and I got fit. And I just think if I can sort of persuade people that, look, if I can do it, you can do it. And if I can run 150 miles, then you can run 3 at parkrun or walk 3 at parkrun, that sort of thing. So I have this joy of it. And I have this sort of this willingness to, I just want to be evangelical about it. I'm so grateful that running found me that I just want to tell people about it and hope that it can find them too.
I think so much of it is taking that first step, and I feel like it's such an easy thing to do having discovered it, but I know for a lot of people starting out it's really hard when you start out.
No, it is. We've done 4 or 5 Couch to 5Ks now, and I'm so impressed with the people that turn up for the first time. It's so hard, and it starts gently. Couch to 5K, a minute on, a minute off, or a minute on, 90 seconds off, something like that, 7 times. You've got, and it absolutely everyone can run. You don't even have to run. Turn up at park, run and walk 3 miles, and there'll be someone behind you because they make sure of that. It's the sort of mentally, I don't think I could be a runner. I turned up at my first ultra, and I imagined that everyone ultra, I hate that expression, ultras, because it sounds like only ultra fit people need to take part. And I thought everyone was going to look like Mo Farah, and they absolutely didn't. There's all sort of shapes and sizes and ages and abilities on the start line, and it's such a welcoming community. The endurance running, I prefer the endurance running community, and anyone can really do it. And it's just a case of persuading people. That's why I write the book. That's why I keep banging on about it.
Oh, it's such a good message. I feel like the ultra world, and I know you talk about this a lot, is in some ways more inclusive than marathon road
100%.
running, when it's people ask you about your time all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas ultras, it's like no one asks you what you ran for a 50k trail race, or actually trail running as well. It's kind of the same, isn't it? It's just a bit more inclusive.
I love it. I mean, I think there's almost as much difference between treadmill and road as there is between road and who knows. I might ask you your 100-mile time, but then I'm a geek, right? But nobody. What you ran 100 miles? It should be what you ran 26 miles. What you ran a 5k. That's great. Not what your time is. Bryony Gordon, who's great. Have you had Bryony on the podcast?
Very soon.
Coming on.
She's great. Ask her about this. She has this thing where she says, I ran a marathon and I saw her on the start line a few weeks ago, and she says, and everyone says, what's your time? And she goes, well, what was your time? And they got to have run well, exactly. Like my son wants to get a purple Lamborghini when he earns money, and he wants to get the purple Lamborghini so that people can say, why do you get a purple Lamborghini? And then he can say, what colour's your Lamborghini? And it's the same sort of thing with Bryony and the marathon time. We shouldn't talk about times, really. Maybe runners should, but actually it should be, wow, you completed a marathon, full stop.
I mean, it's
or
still...
a 5k, full stop, or a 10k, full stop, or anything.
Yeah, if it's your career, then of course times might matter because that's the point of it. But for everyone else, it's for enjoyment. It doesn't matter at all.
If you want to go for a, I spent a couple of years aiming for a sub-3 marathon, and I got there, and I'm really proud of that. And it was a great moment when I finished. The 3 of us, I was on real form that day, and my Garmin was on form, and just clicking over at each mile. Every time we went under the balloons, the Garmin would click. And we went out in 127, came back in 132. Me and this guy, we had a few charity runners with us. Jules he was running too quickly, and I said, just stay with me for a bit. We ended up running 22 miles together. This other guy, Liam, who'd gone out like 121 pace, and then he completely blew up.
Painful.
And we saw him at 5 miles to go doing like 8.5 2.5-minute miles coming.
no.
Literally, it felt like he was running against the tide of the sort of 6:45ers. And I said, just Liam, just stay with us for another 100 yards. And we did it. We all finished together and we collapsed into this group hug on the finishing line. And in my sort of, I felt my soul was soaring. I just felt, and they published a picture of us all in the Telegraph the next day, the three of us in this sort of hug on the finishing line. And I thought we would look like, again, like this sort of like this the angels. And we looked like castaways. It was hilarious. Haggard. We looked 20 years older than we were, but we did it. And it was a lovely achievement. But like you say, if you're not doing something like that, if you're just running a marathon to finish the distance, like my friend, so many friends of mine just did this just now. First marathon or just, I want to get round. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, however fast you're running, it's still 26.2 miles.
No, it's harder the slower you go.
Yeah.
Of course it is. You're on your feet for longer.
Yeah, and just out, especially this year in the heat, I feel, oh my gosh, the people still running, 4-5 hours later. Really, really tough day. It's so impressive.
It was like a few times. 2018 was another year where you train through
winter.
Horrible weather, and then the first nice day, run 26 miles.
Always
that is the tough thing about spring marathons in the UK, is that you have been training through the winter, so it's hard to replicate what the weather might be on race day.
What do you go for, spring or autumn marathon, if you could choose?
Well, I love training through, I really enjoy the heat. So I actually really enjoy training through summer and then doing an autumn. Although having said that, I do normally bugger off for winter somewhere quite nice.
Yeah.
So I live in all year round summer, which is quite good.
Yeah, I think like December's quite a nice time to do a marathon, because then you can start from like September, your block. So it's not the proper heat of the summer, but it's like, it's still quite an enjoyable autumn. Yeah.
What about you? What's your favourite, what kind of racing or running do you enjoy most?
Oh, trail running, early in the morning, sun's rising, like get a good old hill to get the legs going, because then the rest of the run feels quite easy.
Yeah.
Somewhere like Dorset with the Jurassic Coast on one side and the Downs on the other,
incredible.
And then just lose yourself, get a bit lost, or the South Downs, or I mean, it doesn't matter. Oh no, I mean, obviously I think my favourite running is probably in Snowdonia, but something hilly, something beautiful, something kind of remote, maybe on my own. I love running with a group, but maybe on my own, just, no, who cares what the time is?
Very pure, isn't it?
Yeah, you're so connected, and you come back and you think that was, or also new places. I've got this really sad list of all the different places I've ever run. And so it's got to be the start of the run, and it can't be within sort of a mile of the last start. But whenever you go somewhere, I know. And then my son said to me a few years ago, what's the most you've done? Because obviously the longer you live, the longer you run, there's nowhere around here within 20 miles of here that I can start a new run and put it on the list, because I've done it all, right? But my son said, what's the most you ever got? And I said, I think it was 2017, 2018, I got 52. He goes, oh, you could get 100. Oh, no, that's that little worm in my head. And then that year, and it was halfway through the year, actually, that he said that. I thought, okay, fine, I will. And I got 100, just about. But it involved sometimes driving somewhere to have a run. And like on holiday, we're in that village, that's a new run. But then I'll drive to the next village, and then that's a new run.
Mm-hmm. And, it's also such a good way of seeing places.
But
you
that's
must
what I
see
was,
so many other places.
That's what I was thinking. When you go for a run in a new place, you absorb the place so well. It's funny as well. If I'm somewhere, I'll go, hang on, I've run here once. I remember stuff while I'm running. Like my senses are heightened.
Yeah.
Like I'm some kind of secret agent. Whereas if I'm walking or cycling or driving, it's just all going through. But running connects you to a place. So either a sort of beautiful Snowdonia run or a new place, ticking off a new run, but also just exploring the place.
We always say, like, we love to run on holiday.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people say, oh, you're going on holiday, surely you don't want to run, it's your job. I love running on holiday because it's a way of really seeing
and can you
a
ever
completely different
stop
side.
the watch?
Well, I do always wear it, but I don't look at my split. I don't look at my pace.
Yeah.
Can you ever just because I would put a stopwatch on more often than not. Just stopwatch, so I'd time it by time. Can you ever do that?
Well, I like to kind of track my miles and things, so...
Oh, yeah, Strava things.
Yeah. But I don't look at the pace, or I just run for time.
Run for enjoyment and just exploring.
Most of my runs are for time. I'll just run for like an hour or 75 minutes and pace of
and
the
not worry
pace.
about the pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's so important to do that because you do just see it differently. You enjoy it differently, and when you're not worrying about pace, and you do kind of just switch
No,
off.
I mean I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered if you can.
Yeah, no, I love doing that. I really enjoy doing that, especially trails. I mean,
Oh,
it's
trails.
just
Yeah, I
different,
know.
isn't it?
Yeah, trails are great.
Where's the favourite place where's your favourite place to run?
South France. We used to have a
Amazing.
place in South France. It's like it's hilly, but not too bad. You know, it's not like a mountain. It's undulating vineyards. And I know we had this place in the South France. Well, my wife's parents had a place in South France, but we went there loads. And there's not a trail through a vineyard or anywhere that I don't know. And I loved that. But also here's good, because I live here, right? Yeah. So you can start on the river in Barnes where I am, and then pass here up Mortlake, and then follow the river round to Richmond, get into Richmond Park, which is literally right there. Then get in the park, go the wrong way around the park, come out of Roehampton.
What's the wrong way for you?
Well, so the wrong way... no,
there is a right and a wrong way in my head.
Yes, of course there is. Yeah. So it's the right way round the park is obviously clockwise. Is that right for you?
That's the way I always go.
Yeah.
The right way around.
Clockwise,
So go the wrong way around the park.
Yeah.
Well, I meant the wrong way because it takes you longer because it's further. And then you can come out, actually, if you want, you can come out, cross the A3 and get into Wimbledon Common. So you've got Riverside, you've got Park, and then you've got Common, and then you come down the hill and back into Barnes. And I don't know, it's about sort of 15 miles, but it's just, it's lovely.
That's such a good loop. And we're so lucky in London to have that. Basically road-free running in the city. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really great, yeah.
How do you juggle everything? Because you also have a very busy job. You're up very early on the radio. So how do you fit in all your running and training?
Honestly, I don't wear pants. I just...
That's the trick.
Don't wear pants. I honestly, I do not own any underwear. I only own running shorts. So
that's how you fit it.
Yeah. No, because
we need to dive into this a little bit more.
So let's say I'm at London Bridge, right? I just take off my jeans. So this is a running t-shirt here, right? I've got running.
You're always ready.
I don't have to get upstairs, get naked to put on different clothes to go running. I'm always in. So just take off my jeans. Basically, I'm ready to go running. These are running shoes.
So
these are cool, by the way. Have you heard of
your boxers? Are actually your running shorts.
Yeah. So my boxers are running. Because of swimming last year as well, they also double beautifully as swimming shorts. The swimming community disapprove a bit because they're not sort of swimming shorts and they balloon a bit, but I just don't care. They're only holding me up, right? So I'm always ready to go for a run. So if I needed to go for a 20-minute run, if I've got 20 minutes or half an hour, it takes me half an hour. I don't have 5 minutes to go and change and stuff. Or if I want to run my commutes, running commutes is the key. Yeah. But you can just leave a pair of jeans at home. Or at work, and then just run back. I
think that's the most original answer we've ever had,
so
but
efficient.
Also so smart.
Yeah.
I think a big barrier is, there's that saying, the heaviest weight at the gym is the door.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The point is, it's that step of having to get ready, get out the door, and then...
But you're downstairs.
You faff around.
You're downstairs and you're, I escaped to the country, right? Oh, I should go for a run. I should go for a run before the school pickup. Yeah. But then, I like the look of that village. I'll just have a look. Whereas if you're just literally, I just have to take off my trousers and go running.
To go.
Yeah.
I've worn my running kit to bed before so that I wouldn't have to change in the morning.
That's good.
Smart.
That's a good shout.
I mean, pajamas, workwear.
Yeah.
I really don't have an excuse because my running kit is also
your job.
What I work in. So yeah, I love that.
What's your standard weekly training routine then? So do you run most days?
Yeah. I have a sort of 40-minute cycle commute, which on the way to work, I interrupt with a swim in the Serpentine. If you're a member of the Serpentine Swim Club, you can swim there from 5 o'clock in the morning, which is perfect for a breakfast show. And that, honestly, especially now, it feels like you're on holiday with swimming as the sun rises over London. It's great. And in the winter, it gives you the real va-va-voom of that freezing water.
Going in winter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just don't question it. You're sort of ready to break the ice by the Serpentine, and it's just part of your daily habit rather than, and then you think, what am I doing? But then it's too late because you're already clothes off and you're
too cold to think about it.
And it's great. Cold water is great. If there's one thing nearly as good as running, it's swimming in nature, and in the winter, the colder the better.
Are there a lot of people doing it at the same time as you in the Serpentine?
No.
Oh.
I mean, now, yes. Now 2 or 3 at 5 a.m.
Okay.
Where in the winter, you're often on your own. And then I've Barnes runners. I'll run at weekends. I'll run maybe 5 times a week. And it used to be every day at least once, but I've now started doing weight training as well, which I love. You feel sort of all round fitter, and I feel like I'm getting my cardio from 2 40-minute cycle rides. So I'll do, that every weekday, maybe 5 runs a week and 3 weight training sessions a week. And I'll try and swim around that as well.
Will you change anything for, say, if you're going for sub 3 at Berlin?
Yeah, now I'll have to concentrate on running. But I'm not
really?
not giving up. I'm not giving up weight training.
No, definitely. No,
I love it.
We talk about it as well as being weight training is so important.
I especially now, I'm 40s. I feel like I feel fitter. I feel better than I did when I was at my peak running. And so if I can't get sub 3, that's fine. But I will enjoy the process of results. You guys know, right? So I will enjoy the flogging myself around the track. Not while I'm doing it, but I will enjoy the process.
Yes.
And then see what happens in Berlin.
Oh, well, we can't wait to see.
Yeah.
It'll be. I have no doubt you will do it because you have.
You
just seem to achieve everything you set out to do. You've got an amazing mindset for it.
I will try my best, but it's a really different way of running, isn't it? You're on that red line of ability, and then just how far. And I'm willing to stay there, right?
Yeah.
But are my legs going to keep up with me?
Yeah, it's like a different type of challenge, but I do believe that the mental strength that you've built through other challenges is transferable to that as well.
I don't know, but
I think it is.
Yeah.
I've always thought everything I'm doing at the moment is preferable to, that power hour that I told you about, for example.
Yeah.
I don't think I could put myself through that again. I really don't, but I might have to. And then London with the weighted vest, I thought anything is preferable to that. So maybe it's time
Keep that in mind.
because also you set yourself a target, and then it's such a binary target. 2:59 to 59, 3 hours and 1 second.
Yes.
And
it's
an interesting sort of change in, because
especially over a marathon, I ran 2:25:01 at London this year. That 1 second,
Were you a bit
does it annoy you?
I was
really?
fuming. I was fuming.
But it's like no matter what minute you're close to, you feel it. Like even if it was like 2:28:01,
Surely I could have got that.
Because the seconds are free, right? So you may as well get 50 seconds free rather than 1. Because no one says I ran 2:25:01. Well, you're going to, because it was only 1, right? But if you run 2:25:40, you'd say I ran 2:25.
I know.
I was once asked at the London Landmarks to do a world record attempt as a sort of publicity thing, and they filled in all the forms, right? And I was going to be the fastest ever half marathon dressed as a landmark, a building. And I was the shard, but it didn't fit me, the costume. And it's really difficult, by the way, because it has to come down below the knee. So you're sort of, you can't open your stride. But they said it's an open world record, so fine. And my head didn't quite fit through the hole, so I was sort of like that. That wasn't very good for my back either. And then I forgot to start my watch, or I forgot a watch. Oh, the week before, some git in like Toronto did 1:43 or something. So I just had to go under 1:43. I thought it was very doable, even in the costume. And I didn't have a watch, and I was trying my best, but I did 1:43:06. So I missed it by 7 seconds. And again, like your 1 second, like somewhere out there was 7 seconds. I didn't think I left anything out there, but if I'd known,
surely, somewhere.
Just find it somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, it's annoying.
Well, it was so fascinating to hear your story, and your mindset is just so impressive. I think anyone listening to this is just going to take so much away from it in terms of you can achieve anything if you put your mind to it.
Well, and just try, just do the first step. Set yourself a challenge that is outside your comfort zone that you think
that might be couched to 5K.
Yes, or it might be a sub half-hour park run, or it might be, if you're a park runner, right? It might be a 10K. I couldn't go because I'm so tired after the end of park run. I couldn't possibly do it again. Do something that would surprise you when you've done it, because of your 90-year-old self. Your 90-year-old self. Diane and I, that was talking about the swimmer. She and I agreed completely. She goes, I've been aware that, we're so lucky to be alive, and I want to make the most of every moment. I want to suck the life out of this orange, of life. And I feel the same. And I think that if you do just set yourself challenges outside your comfort zone, it just makes you so grow in such wonderful sort of 3-dimensional ways.
And so many amazing experiences.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Okay, I know we could have finished, but my dad, when I ran my first 100-mile race, and it went a lot better than I expected. I think I did it in 18 hours or something like that. And he had this, he speaks like a little bit like a wide-mouthed frog, my dad. And he said, but what a thing to be able to say, I ran 100 miles. And I sort of stayed with me. You know, whatever your thing is, just do what a thing.
Yeah.
What a thing to be able to, you know, insert whatever it is for you here.
That's amazing. I love that. And that kind of links on to just the final question that we ask all our guests is, what is your high five me moment? So that moment, whether that be in sport or life, that you would give yourself a big high five.
Oh, you've got so many to choose from here.
I've got a few.
You can insert that you've done 100 miles.
All I do is basically try to give myself high five moments.
Yes.
You know, that's
What a way to live. I love
I
that.
sort of think so.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm lucky enough to die on a deathbed, which sort of knowing me, I suspect I won't be. But if I am, I sort of want to look back at the high five moments. I want to think, I finished Spartathlon. I did a sub-3 marathon. I attempted and failed to swim the channel. Maybe, you know, in 2 years' time I'll have succeeded. But anyway,
and loved the process.
High five me moments. You're absolutely right to end with that question, because it's a great question, because I think that's what life's all about.
So let's go find some more high five.
Have you two answered your high five moments?
You know what? I don't think anyone's ever asked us.
Oh gosh.
No, come on.
I think mine would be taking the leap of faith to quit law and go into running.
Brilliant.
Because it felt like, and I had so many people saying, what the hell are you doing? You've worked so hard for this career. You studied at such a safe, stable career, and you're going to try and do your hobby as your job. You're a nutcase. And best decision I've made. And it really has, like, changed my life for the better in so many ways. Not only because I get to do what I absolutely love as my job, but I think it's just shown me what's possible when you follow the fun and follow what you enjoy doing. And like, so many of my friends don't enjoy their jobs, and I just now think they're crazy. It's like, go and do what you love.
Yeah, the 6 out of 10 is the most dangerous. If you're 6 out of 10 happy, you just settle.
Yeah,
you know, it's just happy enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if you're a 4, you would change it, and if you're an 8, great. You know, but if you're a 6 out of 10 happy, that's the dangerous bit. You know?
It's
And
so
you
hard to
presumably you
believe.
were about a 6 out of 10 happy, were you? And
I enjoyed my job.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoyed
So that's that's a big high five for that.
But it was the weekends I look forward to, because I got to go running with my club, and I'd like
Which was your club?
Clapham Chasers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do the long runs, and that was the thing I look forward to. So that would be my high five.
That's a good one. Mine, it's tricky. Other than starting this podcast, which is actually a very big high five me moment, is probably actually last year kind of deciding that I want to start trying ultra marathons, because I had quite a few years of marathon running and not quite getting to where I want to with that. And I thought, you know what, I actually think my strength could be in going a bit further. And a lot of people said, not really sure about that. You won't be taken as seriously just coming from the shorter distance, like traditional track and field road running background. And I just thought, you know what, I'm actually just not going to care what they think now and see how it goes. And the first ultra that I did was just the most amazing race experience I've ever had. So I was like, you know what, this has made me infinitely more happier and excited to race again, because I just wasn't enjoying it. Like I love running, but like I wasn't enjoying the racing side. So it's actually made me enjoy that whole process of training for a big goal again. So I think that was a big one for me.
Very good answers.
Thank you.
Big high five to you
fives
both.
all round.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining for such a uplifting and positive conversation, and good luck with the sub-3.
Oh, thank you. I wish I'd said that out loud now.
Thanks for joining us for 5 Miles Easy.
See you next time.